So we're looking at a Raspberry Pi and how you can access this from your Windows 10 laptop without a monitor and a keyboard. It also assumes not an out-of-the-box Raspberry Pi. It's something which you probably already have lying around. So actually I'm showing this to you on a Raspberry Pi 3. So we are going to reflash that. So let's look at how to go about this. So this is where you want to be from your Windows laptop. You should be able to access the Raspberry Pi and then move forward from there, obviously using the laptop's keyboard and mouse to access this. So this is where you want to be. Now it assumes you're a bit of a techie, so if you do not understand some of the words or how a specific action is to be done, you have to find that elsewhere on the net and come back to this, or you can leave some comments on below this video and we'll see how you can be helped in case you get stuck somewhere in getting this done. Now, as I said, we're getting with the Raspberry Pi, which is headless, so you do not need a keyboard or a monitor. It assumes you have a Windows laptop with a Wi-Fi router, so we're assuming that's there. You'll need a TCP/IP Ethernet cable to connect your Raspberry Pi to the router. It's assuming you have a cable rather than using a wireless option. So please assume that you have a cable and you can connect your Raspberry Pi directly to the router using one of the ports there. The Raspberry Pi has a micro SD card, so you need to pull that out and we're going to use that. This should be 16 GB. More or less has some other issues with this, which we will get into if you have a problem, but use a 16 GB micro SD card if you have that. Obviously, you'll need a reader to connect this to your laptop and reflash this, so you can get that set up. Now, one of the first things you need is to use this link here and go to the imager. This is a video, so you can't cut and paste here. So you can always pause the video and make a note. So get the Raspberry Pi imager and install it on your laptop. Before that, make sure your SD card is connected and you format it. If you want, you can format it completely, full erase rather than a quick erase. Make sure you do that with FAT32, which is no partitions. Now, once you run the flash, it's pretty easy. Use the first option on top. You'll see the screen that appears on the next slide. So let's get that done. So use the Raspberry Pi imager. So choose the OS. You see those three boxes on your left side panel. Choose the OS, which when you click on it, you choose the default one as mentioned on the right side. Then you choose your ID card, wherever it is, E:, F:, whatever it is on your Windows, and go ahead and flash it. So once you've created this, now there's one more thing you need to do on the flashed unit, the SSD, micro SSD card. Create an SSH file with no extensions. Okay, so you have to create a file. Nothing needs to be in it, but it should not have any extension. So go to Windows, hide, open up unhide the extensions, and make sure it's SSH. There's a file called SSH in the root of the SSD card, SD card, so that you have no extension, but it's called SSH. Copy. If you have created it on your Windows, you can copy that to your micro SD. Otherwise, create it on the micro SD itself. Okay. Now, once you've done that, we are now going to move to the Raspberry Pi. Take the micro SD card and put it into your thing. Now, further on your laptop, you will need two other pieces of software which you'll need to keep. One is for the terminal operation. So download Putty, P-U-T-T-Y. Okay, put TTY on from your thing, from the internet onto your laptop. Now, also get a VNC client for Windows on your laptop. Okay, so both these links are there. So VNC client, you put both these on your Windows. Now you're ready for accessing your Raspberry Pi. So first you have to find the IP of your Pi. So check your router. So usually most routers 192.168.0.1 will give you the login to your router. So check the IP for the Raspberry Pi. If you go into the wireless options, you won't see it. You'll see it in the wired options because that's what I've suggested here. Once you have it, find the IP. So let's assume it's 192.168.0.103. So now, once you do that and you now fire up your PUTTY putty, you should be able to enter the same above IP 192.168.0.103, and you should be able to log in with the default password and user ID and password for the Raspberry Pi, so which happens to be Pi and Raspberry. Once you're logged in, you'll be something like this. This can look like Greek and Latin to you if you're not familiar with Unix, Linux. In which case, you please follow the exact instructions given at this. Log in first, so user ID is Pi and Raspberry, and subsequently follow. There are a set of instructions on the following screen which you have to enter at this point very carefully, all lowercase. So first you update your existing version, so that'll do that. So super user do apt-get update will do that. Then you install the VNC server. No harm done in having the VNC viewer as well. There's a space between all of that, so remember the spaces. Sudo apt install space, there is dashes and spaces, very important. It's a Unix system. And once you've put the VNC in, then next you can fire up the Raspberry, the configuration for the Raspberry Pi, and the following screen will explain to you what are the things that you have to do on this. So you do this. This is what will appear on your terminal. Now here you have to do a number of things. Follow the screen guidelines on the next screen. You can always come back to this screen whenever you need to, or if you have a problem. Redo some of this, so come back here. That there may be a little bit of experimental things which you'll have to do. So the important things here are to set up the boot options, and also the interfacing options and the advanced options. So probably 1, 5, 7, you'll have to go into each of these. So once you go in there, you'll have to do the following. Okay, choose a desktop environment and select one. Typically, you'll say I want to log in as a graphical user interface and into my desktop with or without the user ID and password. You choose that. And then you'll have to enable the VNC. So please remember that. Interfacing, go to interfacing options and enable VNC, very important. You can set up the resolution, typically around 1200. There are a lot of options there, so choose 1200, 720, you can do that. Once you've done that, you can set up all this, you can save it, and the Raspberry config will exit. It will tell you, should I boot? So you have to boot. Once you boot, you're logged out completely again, so you have to reload your putty back on your laptop and go back to that .103, 192.168.0.103. Once you're back, you can now just check whether the TTY works. It should work. Both will work, TTY and the VNC client. Now you fire up your VNC client and choose your IP. Now, if everything works, 192.168.0.3 will give you a certificate acceptance, and you should be in directly. Okay. Once first time you're in, log in with your Raspberry Pi. The same user ID and password will work. Pi and Raspberry. First time, allow the updates only. Avoid the VNC update. We found that if you do the VNC update, for some reason it changes the IP in the middle, so you don't want that. So once you've done the update, you should now, once you're logged in, this is where you want to be. You're logged into your Raspberry Pi from your keyboard, mouse, everything. You're controlling your entire Raspberry Pi from your laptop. Have fun.